You can easily create arrays in Kotlin. So let's do that real quick. We'll create a variable called items, and you can say array of, and then you pass in some primitives. So we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we can do something with that array. So now we have an array of integers. So we can say items dot for each, and what we're using is the extension function on the array class. There is a for each extension method built inside of the arrays, inside of the Kotlin standard library. And so what that allows us to do is pass in a lambda expression, and we can actually just do a print line with the value. So we can say for each, and print line will then provide the, take a value and print it to the screen. IT is the default name of the item inside of the lambda expression. If we want to change it to something different, we could change it to maybe the word value, and we would do so like this. And then at this point, we can say value. Now, that doesn't really provide us any additional benefit here. And if I hit Alt-Enter, we can see that we can replace the explicit parameter value with the name it. And this just kind of cleans up the code a little bit. Now, once we run this, what we'll see inside of the output window down here on the bottom is all the integers have been printed out. Now, an additional cool thing with some of the built-in array classes of Kotlin is we can also have an int array. So by default, we'll specify, hey, we would like some integers. We can also have a double array. And notice this is going to create a problem here because these are not doubles. But if we were to turn them into doubles by providing, a .0, so it is actually a valid double value, we can then at that point start using the double array of call. There's multiple other ones in here as well. So we have the array of, double array of, float array of, long array of course, the int array of, char arrays, short arrays, byte arrays, and Boolean arrays. Now you'll notice we don't see a string array in here. So what do we do there? So that's actually pretty easy. We can actually just do array of, and then we actually provide some values in here. So Don Felker would be a simple array of 2 items. And if we were to run this again, it would just say Don Felker, 1 string on each line. Now, that's not all we can do with some of the arrays as well. We can also get an array of objects. So we'd say array of, and what I can do here is, since we have our user class, which if we remember that, it just has a first name and a last name. What we'll do here is we'll have user, and we'll say Don Felker, and then we might have another one called Jane Doe. And now we have 2 users who are part of the user array. Let's actually call this users. And then at that point, we can actually do the same thing that we saw before, and then we can iterate each over one of them. And we'll call print line, and we'll call this IT. Because remember, IT at this point is just a user itself. Up here, it's going to be a string. So the compiler is going to know that if we run this. Now we're going to see the toString value of the user class. So let's go take a look at the user class again. And the user class, I've added a quick toString implementation. I've just created an override, so of toString, and we can go ahead and return something. Now it's full name, and it just returns this string up here. And that's how we can work with strings and primitives and objects and easily create arrays of them and alter them and so forth. Now let's assume that for some reason, we needed to update the users and we needed to add one to it. So what we could do is to say if I'll updated users, and we could say users.plus, and they're going to add a new user to it. And we say John Doe here. And what this will do is if we take a look at the plus implementation, what does it do underneath the hood? It's just an extension function that creates a copy of the array with a one larger index, adds the item at that given index, and then returns that new array. So we have to make sure we're using that new array. And so, of course, we could do updated users.forEach, and it's a print line. And then what we could do inside of here is just say IT. And now we'll actually see if we run this again, we'll see additional person down here, John Doe, has now been added to the second array, which is these 3 down at the bottom. Now, there's other things you can also do with those user objects. So you can actually say users. There's other extension function on here. So you say reverse. This will give you the reversed array. There's a whole bunch of other collection classes you can do, and which we'll talk about in the future here, and so forth. But you can also get the size. You can get a particular value at it. So if I want to get the value at item number 0, the location, and I can say print ln, and I can say item. That's going to be, at that point, item 0 is going to be Don Felker. And then if we run it, you'll see that it's just Don Felker's printed down here at the bottom. Now you'll see that we have a squiggly here because we can actually use the indexing operator. So we'll place that, and we can actually do the same thing here that does the same exact method. We can set a value. So if I want to set the index of 0 to be a different user, so I can say foo bar. And then if I were to go ahead and get that, and if we look at the implementation of set, you'll see it's just going to return a unit. So we don't want to do anything with this anymore. So now at this point, we'd want to actually get the value again. So we'd say val item equals users dot, and we'll just use the indexing operator instead of the get. And if we were to run this, we'll see here that the item that's printed on the bottom is foo bar because the first item in the array was updated. Now again, we see a squiggly here. We can update this with an indexing operator again. So we're going to say, hey, the first user is actually going to be equal to this. Go get that first user and print it at that point in time. So there's all different kinds of stuff that you can do with arrays. You can add things, you can get copies, you can reverse them, slice them. There's a tremendous amount of things you can do with these collections, such as the other collections in Kotlin, which we will cover. And that's how you can work with arrays and build them quickly in Kotlin.